Henry Ford was born in 1863 and he died in 1947. He created the first model car in 1896, and he was a successful entrepreneur, creating the Ford Motor Company in 1903.
One of the inventions he made was the assembly line. Because the assembly line, cars became faster to produce it. From going to handcrafting each part to having someone specifically do one part, like the engine or the door, something like that. The first vehicle that he created was the Model T. It was very successful, but it was very affordable for the family. The starting price was $18,000 today's money.
The assembly line created excessive growth after he created it in 1913. Ford took off in the 1920s, vastly increasing production. By 1923, the company had expanded, producing more than half of America's automobiles. And by the end of the 1920s, they had more than 20 overseas assembly plants.
A couple years later, World War II broke out, so Ford stopped producing family-made cars and focused on Jeeps and other military supplies.
Shortly following World War II, in 1949, the first line of F-Series truck came out with the F1.
After World War II, Ford decided to buy Ferrari, but Enzo Ferrari wasn't having it. He wanted to sell off just the sports cars, but not the race team. But Ford wanted the sports cars and the race team. So, because he said no, Ford decided to make the GT40 to race in Le Mans. It was a 24-hour race which 3 GT cars were put into. It was great marketing for Ford.
At around the same time, the Mustang was created, and it was a cheaper model sports car for the average civilian. It was somewhat fast, but it could not compete with the GT40. It competed in a few Le Mans, but it wasn't the same as the GT40.
Around that time, the 70s came along around. The biggest problem with the 70s was gas shortages, and that's where the Ford pickups and Ford vehicles took a major hit by putting smaller engines and less power to each vehicle.
These cars were built very well and were made to last. I personally own a 1971 F100 pickup, and it's still running great.
Around this time, the OBS came out, which stands for Old Body Style. They were great from the 80s to the 90s. One behind us.
Behind me, the 1997 Ford F-250 7.3 liter diesel power-stroke engine. It was the first model of diesel engine for Ford cars, and it was very successful. Many of these engines are still running today and are considered one of the best diesel engines ever created.
Nowadays, Ford has even more cars on the road. Like in the 2000s, the Crown Vic, a standard police-issued vehicle, and now the Ford Interceptor. Ford's been a great company. Ford decided to buy Ferrari for the sports cars, but Enzo Ferrari was a stubborn bastard.
No!
Damn it! You fucker!
Ford expanded his plants over 20 countries overseas and expanded...
He said 20 countries overseas, 20 plants.